Hello and welcome to Module 1 of the SBH Teaching Kitchen's online cooking series. My name is Emily Schlag and I'm a chef as well as a registered dietitian, and in today's lesson I'm going to show you a few basic knife skills. Getting started with good knife skills is important because that allows you to be quick, safe, and efficient anytime you're cooking. In this lesson, I will show you a few different types of knives and what we use them for, as well as how to properly hold a knife. I'm also going to show you a few different knife cuts, such as a dice, a julienne, and a mince. I'm going to show that to you on an onion, a bell pepper, garlic, and a potato, and let's go ahead and get started. There are many different types of knives available, and it's important to use the right tool for the job. On the right, we have two chef's knives. You will use these most of the time when you are cutting. This first one is an 8-inch chef's knife. It is my personal favorite to use. There's also a 10-inch chef's knife. For me, it's a little big, but sometimes you need a bigger knife for the job. You could also use a santoku knife. It's like a chef's knife, just a different shape. It's all about your preference. Here we have a 4-inch chef's knife. This is a good option if you are new to cooking and not yet comfortable with a knife, as they're much easier to use. A serrated knife is good for bread or cutting through tough skins like tomato skin. Paring knives should really only be used for small projects like hulling strawberries or tomatoes, and this is a honing steel. It's used to keep your knives sharp. Some other things we might use are a peeler. I really like the Y-shaped peeler. I think they're easier to use. And while we're cutting, we can use a bench scraper to pick up products off of our cutting board instead of using a knife. We want to make sure we're holding our knives properly. So what we need to do first is take our thumb and index finger and pinch the blade of the knife. So we're touching metal here. Your other 3 fingers will wrap around the handle of the knife. This will give you a really good grip of the knife. You'll have a lot of control this way. A lot of people like to put their finger up on top of the knife. This is just going to wear out your finger and you won't have as much control. With your other hand, you want to make a claw shape. This will protect your fingertips. Your knife should only ever touch your knuckles. That will protect your hand and can guide you while you're cutting. You never want to have your fingertips sticking out because they can fit under your blade while you're cutting and you don't want to cut yourself. First, we're going to cut an onion. An onion has a top and a bottom. The top is a little more papery and the bottom is the roots, those stringy ends. We want to cut the top off. After we cut the top off, we can discard it in our scrap bowl off to the side or use it for stock. By cutting the top off, we make a flat surface, so our onion will no longer roll around on the cutting board. Then we will cut straight through the root. We want to have root on both halves of our onion. We do not want to cut the root off. We can see that all of the layers of the onion come together at the root. It's holding all of the layers together. If we cut the root off, the onion will fall apart. After the onion is cut in half, it is much easier to peel. First, we're going to dice our onion. We're going to do that by cutting strips into the onion and then cutting against those strips that we made to make a dice. When we cut our strips into the onion, we cut straight down, but you do not want to cut through the root of the onion. You can avoid doing this by making sure that the tip of the blade is not going past the root. That way, when you cut straight down, your onion will stay intact. While you're cutting, make sure that you're making your strips evenly spaced apart. After you've cut your strips, you can see that the onion is not falling apart, and that is because we left the root on. So we can shake that onion all around and nothing's going to happen. It's all going to stay in place. Now all you have to do is cut against those strips that you just made and you will have a perfect dice. You do not have to cut back over this again. It's perfect as it is. And we can see that all of the pieces have an even size and even shape. They will cook evenly and they will look appetizing in whatever dish you use them in. Use your bench scraper to take your onions and put them into a bowl off to the side of your cutting board. This helps you to stay organized and keep your cutting board clean. With the rest of the onion, if you want to, you can use the tip of your knife to make a few more strips of the onion and finish making your dice. This way you have less waste. The root of the onion can be used to make vegetable stock. Next we will julienne the onion. When we're julienning, we're cutting the onion into long, thin strips. Here we can cut the root of the onion off. We no longer need it. There's two ways we can make a julienne. We can cut the onion into these half moons. They look pretty, but an issue here is that we may have a very large piece and a really small piece. If we were to cook this, the small piece would burn while the large piece stays raw. A better alternative is to follow the natural lines that we see on an onion and cut against those, following the curve of the onion. We will start with our knife at an angle and then eventually even out. As you can see, these strips are more evenly sized and shaped, so if we were to cook these, they would cook evenly and look nice in our final dish. Once you get to the end of your onion and it's feeling a little bit wobbly, you can go ahead and knock that over to finish cutting your onion. Now we have a beautifully julienned onion. Next we will cut our bell pepper. When we look at a bell pepper, it's easy to imagine it having 4 walls, and we will cut those walls down. And we want to avoid cutting through the stem. So we will cut down one wall, then we will turn the pepper, cut down the second wall, turn the pepper again, cut down the third wall, and then lay the pepper down on its side to cut down the 4th wall. You can also cut off the floor this way. Now all of the seeds of the pepper are contained, and they are not all over our cutting board, and we can go ahead and discard that. If you would like, you can pull out any seeds or stems that are still inside the pepper that you just cut. It's up to you. Some people don't like it for the bitter taste. To dice the pepper, we will start by cutting it into strips. I find it's easier to cut through the inside of the bell pepper. The outside can be waxy, and if your knife is not sharp, it's easy to slip and cut yourself. So I prefer to cut through the inside of the pepper. You will start by making strips, just like we did with the onion. You could stop here if you wanted to serve these as a dip or make stir fry. If we want to dice these, we will line up those peppers. You don't have to take all of them at once. You can just take a few if you would like, whatever you're comfortable with. Line those peppers up, and with a rocking motion, you are going to dice those peppers. Just like our onion, we have an even dice of our pepper. So we will always go from a plank to the strips that we made to a dice. If you want a really finely diced pepper, all you have to do is make those strips thinner. Now when you line the strips up, you will end up with a finely diced bell pepper. Next we're going to cut a potato. I'm going to peel this potato, but just know that the skin is edible, so you can skip this step if you want to. The method I'm going to use to cut this potato can be applied to most round vegetables. We are going to dice this. You will use the same steps to dice things like carrots, squash, zucchini, anything that's round. You're going to use the same method. We're going to start by cutting the potato into planks. Lay it down in a way where it's not going to rock around too much. Then cut the potato into evenly spaced planks. You can see that the planks are evenly sized, which means that our dice is going to be even. From here, we can cut our planks into sticks or strips, just like we did with the bell pepper. We want to make sure these are evenly spaced as well. If you wanted to bake these and make French fries, you could do that now, or we can go ahead and dice the potato. It's easy to keep the potato together, line all of the pieces up, and then go ahead and dice it. So now we have an evenly diced potato. If you want to save time, you can stack 2 pieces on top of each other if you're comfortable with that. This way your dicing will be twice as fast. Next, we will cut our garlic. With garlic, we generally mince it. If you buy your garlic as a head, it can be helpful to loosen the outside paper before trying to separate the cloves. Once the cloves are exposed, you can pull off as many pieces as you would like. With our garlic, it's hard to peel the paper off as it is, so one thing that can help is to smash that garlic. You're going to take the side of your knife and the heel of your hand and press down onto the garlic to smash it into the cutting board. You want to really smash it here, you don't want to be gentle. By doing that, that paper falls right off. If the stem of the garlic is really thick, you can go ahead and cut that off, as it can be hard to cut through. Cutting the end off also makes it easier to peel the garlic, but it's only necessary if it's really thick. Now we're going to roughly chop the garlic. This just means we're going to cut the garlic into smaller pieces. It doesn't need to be perfect. To mince, you're going to take your non-dominant hand, you're going to keep it flat and put it on the back of the knife. Then you're going to have the tip of your knife on your cutting board. It will never leave. That's your pivot point. To mince, you just chop up and down, back and forth, until the garlic is as small as you would like for it to be. While you're mincing, you can stop every so often to reset your pile and to wipe any excess garlic off of the side of your knife. Garlic can be pretty sticky, so that's why I like to do it last. Once your garlic is minced, which just means we cut it up really small, you are all set. This is where a bench scraper comes in handy because that garlic is so sticky. Now all of our vegetables are prepped and ready to go. Our workstation is clean and we are ready to cook.